and indeed the final Prime Minister's questions for the Right Honourable the Member for Holborn and St Pancras as Prime Minister. Can I thank the Prime Minister for his public service, his international leadership, particularly in his steadfast support for Ukraine. I am sure members will wish to join me in wishing him and his family well in the future. And let's hope this Prime Minister will be bringing home a winning England World Cup from the team. On that note, I'm going to call Graham Stewart.
Graham Stewart.
Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
We've got question
Mr.
one.
Speaker, can I thank you for your kind words?
Graham Badenoch.
But I must start by saying I'm truly horrified by the murder of Anne Widdecombe. She was a distinguished politician with deep convictions, whose vivid and fearless character captured the public imagination. My heartfelt condolences go out to all of her friends and all of her loved ones. Mr. Speaker, it is chilling that during my time in this Parliament, 11 years, 3 serving or former MPs have been murdered. I look across at the shield for our dear friend Jo Cox and the shield for Sir David Amess that sits behind me. Mr. Speaker, I know this is a House matter, so this is my personal view. But I do believe it would be fitting for the House to consider a similar tribute to Anne. We thank the police for their work, and the integrity of their investigation must be protected. Mr. Speaker, you have been instrumental in defending the safety of every member of this House, and I believe we must do more to defend our democracy. I've tasked officials across government to identify the best mechanisms for taking this work forward so it can move as quickly as possible. And I hope the whole House can unite behind that in the months ahead. Mr. Speaker, let me also pay tribute to the courage of the Hillsborough families. The Hillsborough law we passed in this House last night is not only a law for them and the 97, it is a law that ensures the state serves millions of working people and always gives a voice to those who fight for justice. A law for everyone, delivered by a Labour government in the best traditions of the Labour movement. Mr. Speaker, this morning I have meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I have an important appointment with the television at 8 o'clock this evening.
Graham Stewart.
May I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about Anne Widdecombe? Take this opportunity to thank him for his public service and wish him and his family all the best for the future. Most of us, Mr. Speaker, can only dream of playing the role of Jude Bellingham, scoring the winning goal, leading our team to victory. Yet the Prime Minister did it. But politics, like football, is a ruthless game, and he's now been handed a red card by the 400 dodgy referees. What advice, Mr. Speaker, does this Prime Minister have for the Right Honourable Member for Makerfield to ensure that he, unlike himself, doesn't end up with an early bath?
Mr. Speaker, I think that's the first and sadly probably the last time I'll be compared to Jude Bellingham. But I thank him for that. And on the question of red cards, I can't tell him how much incoming I had a week ago Monday after President Trump intervened for their red card, for me to get the England red card adjusted. Just for the record, Mr. Speaker, I didn't attempt. But for my successor and for the England team, I won't give advice. I will simply give my wholehearted support. And Mr. Speaker, just for the record, I don't care what the score is tonight, as long as we win.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I take this opportunity to thank the Prime Minister for his many years?
You've got to stand up, mate. Substitution.
Come on, Matt.
Fucking hell, Matt, what are you doing? Stand up, lad.
It was an honour to march with people from across Watford on a peace walk in my constituency recently, because earlier this year we saw an attack on our high street. where a fire was lit at a Jewish-owned shop and sprayed with anti-Semitic graffiti. Additionally, mosques in Watford have been subject to Islamophobic attacks and intimidation. So I welcome my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister's additional support to deal with anti-Semitism and anti-religious hatred. And does he agree with me that this House must come together to stand united against those that would seek to divide us?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank him for his question and for his hard work? And he reminds us that an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. Anti-Semitism and anti-Muslim hatred are a poison. We ripped anti-Semitism out of the Labour Party, and I've worked as Prime Minister to root it out of our country. And that's why just this week, Mr Speaker, we invested a record £250 million to protect our Jewish communities. And we're using the new powers we introduced to designate the IRGC, going after those who incite violence on our street. Everyone deserves to live with security, dignity and freedom. And that is a fight that I and every Labour government and across this House will never give up on.
Kemi Badenoch, the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, can I start by thanking the Prime Minister for the way he responded to the murder of Anne Widdecombe last week. This is the first opportunity I've had on the floor of the House to commemorate her life. A lot has been said about how she died. I want to focus on celebrating the life she lived. She was a woman of high principle, profound beliefs with a wicked sense of humour, a wonderful combination of being a serious person who did not take herself too seriously. She changed her faith from Anglican to Catholic and from the Conservative Party to the Brexit Party, but she always remained part of the Conservative family. You may not always have agreed with her, but Anne Widdecombe was a woman who said what she meant and meant what she said. Hers was an honesty that made our politics better. Her wit and forthrightness sat alongside a deep humanity and decency. She had wonderful turns of phrase. She said, we need less political correctness and more political courage. She said, if we deny our culture, become nothing and everything, that weakens us. And finally, Mr Speaker, she also said, it is a truth universally unacknowledged at Westminster that there is life after politics. So with that in mind, I turn to this Prime Minister's final questions. And Mr Speaker, I wanted to make sure that I got the tone right today. So I looked back at his final questions to Boris Johnson, and luckily for him, I plan to be much gentler than he was that day. Week after week, the Prime Minister and I have clashed at this dispatch box and rarely agreed on anything. But there is one thing I did admire. When President Zelensky was attacked in the White House, the Prime Minister showed leadership and invited him to Downing Street. That was the right thing to do. Ukraine is on the front line in the battle for freedom. So does the Prime Minister agree that cross-party support for their cause must endure?
Prime Minister.
Can I start by joining her in a tribute to Anne Widdecombe? I know that the hurt is keenly felt across all her friends and family, but it's particularly keenly felt by political colleagues in the Conservative Party for many years and in Reform as well. And that's why one of the first things I did on Friday was 100%. To phone the Leader of the Opposition and the Leader and Deputy Leader of Reform to express my condolences and to try to act in a cross-party manner, because I knew how much this would hurt them and their parties and many people in their party. And I thank them for taking that call in the spirit that they did last Friday. I thank her for her comments about Ukraine. We have stood united on Ukraine in this House. We supported the last government in the approach that they took, and we've taken that approach on. That meeting with President Zelensky, the day after he was evicted from the Oval Office, he left alone. He got a plane. We got him to come to London, and I asked him to come to Downing Street straight away. And I walked out to meet him. I gave him a hug, and then I showed him what was in the street, which was many people who had come thinking that he was visiting Downing Street, and the moment he got out the car and hugged me, they cheered on the top of their voices, the British people, to tell President Zelensky exactly what they thought of him and the way that he had been treated. And that was a really emotional moment because it was the first human contact he had effectively had outside of his immediate team since he left the Oval Office. I had a meeting with him to tell him that in this country we will stand with him and Ukraine, and I didn't let him leave alone. I walked him out to his car because we don't let people in Britain walk out of our buildings alone. We escort them out.
Kemi Badenoch.
Can I thank the Prime Minister for that answer? And no doubt he will be disappointed that he won't be emulating his hero, Harold Wilson, in winning multiple elections. However, we all hope that he may be about to emulate him in another way, by being the Prime Minister when England win the World Cup. That is something that every single one of us in this House should get behind, especially the SNP.
Fucking hell. No, I don't think they're going to do that, Kemi.
Mr. Speaker, as leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister led his party to a landslide after a historic defeat. I fully intend to do the same. But if you want to lead this country, you should set out your plans to do so. We have. But one politician intends to spend the summer avoiding scrutiny, refusing to set out his plans. So does he not agree that what the country deserves is a televised debate between Nigel Farage and Count Binface?
Very good. Wasn't expecting that.
Well,
I thought she was going to mention Burnham.
Mr. Speaker, they intend to spend the summer arguing with a bin. My advice to everyone is put your vote in the bin. Mr. Speaker, can I just say that
make your vote count.
I'm delighted today that we are joined in the gallery by some of the people I've met across the country in opposition and in power. And these are the people in the gallery today who are in my mind's eye. People like Trevor and Lewis. They worked together at JLR for over 30 years, and I visited them just before we got the deal with America when tariffs were threatened, and I faced the entire workforce that day who were very, very concerned that they were going to lose their jobs because the tariffs would not be possible for JLR. When we went back, when we got the deal, I took the call from President Trump at JLR in Solihull so they could hear the deal and they knew exactly what it would mean for them. The only mistake I made was putting it on loudspeaker, which of course is always a slightly unpredictable thing to do when you've got President Trump on the other end. But luckily, he agreed the deal and the cheer went out. But these are the people across the galleries who are here with us today that are always in my mind's eye.
Okay, Ben.
Mr. Speaker, I know how much the Prime Minister has come to enjoy our exchanges. In fact, in the King's speech last month, he told me that on difficult days, my input was always a ray of sunshine. He might not have answered many of the questions I asked him, but at least he turned up. It is important to respect Parliament. So does the Prime Minister agree with me that his successor should come to this place and answer questions rather than scurrying away for the summer?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as Prime Minister, I've participated in over 60 PMQs. Always a pleasure, always something to look forward to.
I think I've covered nearly all of them.
Or at least given answers on 2,800 times, and I'm sure she will question my successor in the same way. And I'm sure she'll forgive me if I just mention one or two others who are in the gallery who have been affected by the decisions we've made, because Billy, who is sitting in the gallery in front of me, was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2023. She was there, Mr. Speaker, when we launched our plan for change, and she's been a tireless advocate for better cancer care. Billy joins us today from the Special Needs School where she works in London, and I'm pleased to tell the House that Billy's cancer is in remission.
Can I thank the Prime Minister for that answer and paying tribute to so many of the people who he has been able to help. In fact, I remember when I started this job, the Prime Minister was very helpful to me, saying that I wouldn't last the year. Life comes at you fast. He spent a long time laughing that I'd lost control of my party. I think he should have been paying attention to his backbenchers instead of mine. But everyone in politics would do well to remember how quickly political fortunes can change. I know that he has been asked and he's being diplomatic, but on that note, does he have any advice for his successor?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I will give my wholehearted support to my successor. I want this Labour government to be a success. I want our country to be a success. I shall give my support privately if asked for, not publicly when not asked for. But, Mr. Speaker, I also, if I may, wanted to draw attention to Pooja, who's with us in the gallery today with her daughter. I first met Pooja in a cafe at the back of Euston Station, and she told me about her son Ronan, who was murdered when he was 16, having just done his GCSEs. I have to say, as a father of two teenagers, I found that very hard to hear. His killer, who was also a teenager, collected a ninja sword and a machete from his local post office. He bought them online using a parent's credit card, a fake name with no ID checks. And when I heard that, I said to Pooja that I would campaign with her to get the law changed and make a commitment and a promise to her. And that's why we passed Ronan's Law, driven by Pooja's inspirational campaigning. And today I'd just like the opportunity to thank her for that.
Mr. Speaker, that is a lovely statement that the Prime Minister has just made to Pooja. I'm not sure the whole House will agree. I think the whole House will also agree that he gave a very diplomatic answer to the question I asked him on advice to his successor. And having heard it, I say this to Labour MPs with as much goodwill as I can muster. We have been where you are. Changing Prime Minister is not a silver bullet. Indeed, it may be that the Labour Party's troubles are only just beginning. Solving the fundamental problems in this country will require difficult decisions. And you also need to know how to get things done. The Prime Minister once said that when he pulled the levers, nothing happened. Why did he think that was?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we did pull the levers. We pulled the levers to stabilise the economy, and we've stabilised the economy. We pulled the levers to strengthen our public services, and NHS waiting lists are coming down at the fastest rate for 17 years. We pulled a big lever on child poverty, and this government will be doing more on child poverty than any government ever, including previous Labour governments. We put the biggest investment into defence and security, and our international standing has been restored. But, Mr. Speaker, we also pulled the lever on the individual cases that matter, including individuals like Carla, who's in the gallery today. It was one of the parents that came to see me about online harm and the harm it can do to our young children, and that's why we banned social media for under-16s. And Daniel, who's also here with his son, who spoke to me many times about the struggles he's had with the cost of living and the need for a safe and secure home for every family and every child to grow up in. They're the people, Mr. Speaker, that matter more to me than anything else, because it's their lives that I think about when we make decisions in this government.
Final question, Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So for my last question, the Prime Minister may not think so now, but it is a tribute to him that not a single sitting Labour MP could beat him. Not the member for Ashton-under-Lyne, who couldn't count her taxes, not the member for Sheffield Heeley, who couldn't count how many phones she'd lost, and definitely not the member for Ilford North, who couldn't count to 81. This is my last exchange with the Right Honourable Gentleman, and I know how much his wife and children mean to him, and that they are in the gallery today. As everyone here knows, our families make a huge sacrifice for our choice to enter public life. So I hope he will allow me to draw our time together to a close by thanking them for the love and support they have given him throughout his time in office.
That's actually quite
Can I
nice.
thank her very much for that? It is the last question I'll face from the Leader of the Opposition. And so let me wish her well and her family. We have had robust exchanges across this dispatch box, but she has extended kindness to me privately at very difficult times, including when there was an attempt to burn down our family home, which deeply affected my family. She reached out to me. And when my brother died of cancer, she reached out to me privately, not across this dispatch box. And I thank her for that and the tribute that she's just made to my wife and children, who mean the world to me. I do thank her for that. She knows this is robust and it has to be robust, and that's the way politics is done. But the kindnesses that sit behind it privately are often just as powerful, if not more powerful, and I thank her for that. I also stood at that dispatch box, Mr. Speaker, for 4 years as Leader of the Opposition. I know firsthand it's the most difficult job in politics, and that is what she is doing. When I did so, Mr. Speaker, we had just lost the 2019 election, which nearly broke my party. It was the worst result since 1935, and we were found to be institutionally anti-Semitic. And, Mr. Speaker, I picked up our party, I turned it round, I made a promise to rip anti-Semitism out of my party, and I did. I turned my party to face the country, and we won a landslide Labour general election. And after 2 years, we've stabilised the economy. We have invested heavily in our public services. We put better protections in for children, particularly on child poverty. We've strengthened our defence, and we've enhanced our international reputation. I'm proud to leave this country in a better shape than I found it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is an emotional Prime Minister's question time today, and I really welcome the tone that has been struck and think we should hear more of this more often. Last year, I convened a roundtable of stakeholders in my constituency to explore joined-up solutions to tackling the scourge of violence against women and girls, and I've been really pleased over the last 2 years the Prime Minister has made that central to his government's mission. He has ensured that spiking and sexual deep fakes have been criminalised, that police forces have been mandated to have rape and sexual offences teams, and it has embedded trauma support for victims across all services. Does he agree that the government absolutely must stick to the pledge that the Labour Party put in its 2024 manifesto to halve violence against women and girls over the next decade?
Yes, I do. Can I pay tribute to her campaigning on this issue? Mr. Speaker, yesterday I was with John and Penny Clough, who I first met nearly 16 years ago. They lost their daughter to domestic violence of the most extreme sort in appalling circumstances. And in many ways, my journey campaigning on violence against women and girls started with them 16 years ago this year. I pay tribute to them and everybody else who campaigns on this. That's why we set the mission to halve violence against women and girls in a decade. Whatever role I do next, I will continue to campaign for that for as long as I've got breath in my body.
Sir Ed Davey, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with so many of the Prime Minister's comments today, but particularly his remarks about Anne Widdecombe? She devoted her life to public service, and her murder was truly horrifying, and I support his campaign now for a memorial in this chamber to her. Can I also thank the Leader of the Opposition for her tribute to Anne, and to remind the whole House and the whole country that we need to remember Anne for the way she lived her life. I have to make a confession. I've always been slightly jealous of Anne for appearing on Strictly Come Dancing.
He's so going to do it, isn't he?
Mr. Speaker, but can I join the whole nation, and hopefully every nation, in wishing England well against Argentina tonight, after their superb win against Norway? And it's the last job of the Prime Minister to make sure we win the World Cup. But can I also pick up on a remark from the Leader of the Opposition about the by-election we're about to see in Clacton? I have to tell her I cannot back joke figures with ridiculous policies, which is why I'm supporting Count Binface. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister finds himself with more time on his hands, can I recommend the new Toy Story film? For those of you who don't know Toy Story, its main character used to be in law enforcement, but was mainly known for being a little wooden, but was replaced by a shiny new action figure from far away who thinks he can fly. And the name Andy on everyone's lips. Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, maybe the Prime Minister should give that a miss. But does he share my fear that when it comes to Britain's national debt, the Right Honourable Member for Makerfield's plan is to infinity and beyond?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I first...
Let's get a dad joke animation, isn't it?
He's clearly angling to go on Strictly Come Dancing, and no doubt he'd be very good at it. And I've some good news for him, because he is, fittingly, the Right Honourable Member for Chessington World of Adventures. And I'm supposing he talks about the economy. I'm pleased to tell him that thanks to our summer savings, his family can save nearly £20 when they visit this summer.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker, can I invite the Prime Minister to join me at Chessington World of Adventures? We haven't always agreed across the floor, but can I pay my own tribute?
Yes, you have.
I've disagreed with them on Europe, and I've disagreed with you on Europe. So shall I say to the Prime Minister that although we've not always agreed, I've always admired the way he has led his party. I've always admired the way he's been a true patriot, and I always admire the way he's worked with so many people across this House to do the best for the national interest, and we thank him for his public service. And Mr. Speaker, one of the Prime Minister's qualities that people most underestimate comes from his experience as a carer. He's spoken powerfully about looking after his mother through her battle with Steele's disease, and the love and care he gave to his brother Nick. And I know the Prime Minister agrees that we can and must do more for family carers. So as he leaves number 10, will he join with me and other carers across this House to speak up for family carers, to be their voice, and to get them the support they deserve?
Yes, and can I thank him for everything he's done in relation to social care and the importance of providing care. And he does it with very real human experience that we all know and we all respect, and no doubt he will continue to champion that, as everybody should. He asked me about joining him at Chessington World of Adventures. I will. Can I suggest 12 noon on the first Wednesday in September?
Rachel Maskell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before coming to this House, the Prime Minister and I attended the launch of my uncle's book. It was entitled Fine Lines and Distinctions. And clearly, sometimes we've had those differences, but I genuinely wish him and his family well for the future. But before he places his pen down, I understand there's a tradition to leave a note for your successor. And in wishing all honourable members the very best of summers, I ask that he asked his successor, the Right Honourable Member for Makerfield, to enact my legislation to licence short-term holiday lets and ensure that we can protect our communities from family houses turning into party houses in our residential areas, and ensuring we keep those housing costs down.
Prime Minister.
I'm not sure about notes for success. I think we left one in 2010, which didn't work too well. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that my successor will look at our private members' bill, and I'm proud to have overseen the biggest boost to renters' rights in a generation. We've kick-started the biggest boost to social and affordable house building, and wherever people live, they deserve a safe, secure home that they can call their own.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whilst his own MPs may have sent him off without resorting to VAR, I have some good news for the Prime Minister. Yes, under his tenureship, 76% of England football matches have been won, which is the greatest, most successful record of any Prime Minister in history. So will he commit, in his remaining days in office, to carrying out whatever meetings, reviews, motivational talks to ensure his greatest legacy on Sunday is that finally football is coming home?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for this? I mean, I'm a massive football fan, so forgive me for being a nerd on this, but we've won 22 out of 29 matches since I've been Prime Minister of the England team. We have got to get that to 24 over 31, which means we will win on Sunday, and I wish the team well. And of course, Mr. Speaker, it's only under Labour governments that we win the World Cup. And in that spirit, I'm sure the whole House will get behind the team.
Julia Butley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Watching the Prime Minister secure his legacy this week with the NATO summit and the Hillsborough Law, I wondered if he wanted to make it a hat-trick and support Shrewsbury College's bid for a new construction skills centre. As the main post-16 provider in the county, our outstanding college trains over 10,000 young people and adults, both A-levels and vocational qualifications. But this year's applications are up by 15% and our buildings are full to capacity. In a rural area like Shrewsbury, with limited alternatives, hundreds of people could end up becoming NEET. Will the Prime Minister support their third attempt to secure capital funds and meet the growing need so we can open the Construction Skills Centre in September?
You've got it, I've got it, you must.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the college in our constituency has made a bid to the Post-16 and Construction Skills Capacity Fund to expand their provision. I've also set a target for 2/3 of young people either to go to university or to a gold standard apprenticeship, because I think we need to rebalance. We rightly applaud and put on a pedestal those that go to university. We need to do the same for those that are apprentices as well, and have a bit of rebalancing.
Can we just speed up questions, because there's some people I really do want to get in to help everybody. David Chadwick, got it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2 weeks ago, the news leaked that Powys Teaching Health Board is considering taking the beds out of all but 2 community hospitals in Powys, and 2,500 people have already signed my petition against those cuts. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that taking beds out of community hospitals is not a solution for the crisis in social care, and why didn't he prioritise fixing social care when he had the opportunity?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would remind him that when his party was in the coalition government, they didn't do anything about social care. They simply cut all our public services, and we had to pick up the results of that. But, Mr. Speaker, I don't know the details of the particular case he refers to, but I'll make sure he gets a better answer than that in writing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Olivia is a young constituent in Darlington. Her testimony was instrumental in securing a ban on stranger contact for under-16s. She has the letter that the Prime Minister sent her framed on her wall. Olivia and millions of young people across the country will be safer because of him. And his commitment to hear the stories of ordinary people and the injustices they have faced, and then to take action, has delivered real change. Given that social media has, for better or for worse, played such an influential role on our tenure in this House, I wondered if the Prime Minister might share with all of us any of the viral moments that have had cut through in the Starmer household.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I need to tread very carefully here. I got into a lot of trouble in a primary school when an 8-year-old encouraged me to do the 6-7 thing, and the whole class joined in. It went viral, and when I left, the head teacher told me sternly that it was against the school rules. And I have to say, I was totally pathetic. I'd simply said, I didn't start it. It must be
Alistair Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like others, I have always respected the Prime Minister as somebody who was in politics because he wanted to give service to his country, and he's earned our gratitude for that. In my constituency, those who volunteer as Coast Guard rescue officers also do so from a wish to give service to their community. So in the time that remains for him in office, will the Prime Minister ensure that the money paid to them properly reflects respect that they earn for their service?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for this really important question? I start by wishing him a very happy birthday. But this is really important, and I want to pay tribute to every volunteer. They show incredible bravery, putting their lives at risk to save others. Our guiding principle is making sure we respond to this complex case by properly recognising their vital work. Ministers will continue to work with all parties, the Coast Guard Rescue Service and volunteers, to respond to their concerns and to get this right. And he's absolutely right to raise this very important issue. We'll be on it.
Lord Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I pay tribute to the Prime Minister for his steadfast leadership in the face of two major conflicts? My right honourable friend's efforts to successfully marshal international support for Ukraine and his work to ensure that our armed forces are not sucked into an aimless and dangerous war with Iran could prove, in fact, I believe will prove, to be his most important legacy. Does the Prime Minister share my view that we must now use every diplomatic tool at our disposal, including sanctions against networks and enablers, to crack down on hostile states such as Russia and Iran?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank him for that? And I'm proud of the fact that we pulled together the coalition of the willing, Mr. Speaker. We did so because the usual frameworks, the UN wouldn't work to do that. The EU was blocked by Hungary, and NATO wasn't the vehicle because Ukraine is not in NATO. So we put together a coalition of the willing, led by the French and the UK, and now the Germans. I'm honoured that we're joined in the gallery by the Ukrainian ambassador today, Mr. Speaker. Let me say to him and all Ukrainians, we are united in this House against Russian aggression. That work began before I was Prime Minister. It will continue afterwards because Ukraine's security is our security. And this House is proud to stand with you.
Danny Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Prime Minister for his service? He's a good man and I wish him very well for the future. But, Mr. Speaker, politics is not a joke. And every other party in this House, except Reform, has put forward as their candidate in the Clacton by-election a comedian with a dustbin on his head. Mr. Speaker, it might be, if they would listen, it might be that a man with his head full of rubbish is a fitting representative of the mainstream parties in this House. But the Prime Minister, I think the Prime Minister did endorse the bin man. But could he clarify that? If he won't put up a Labour candidate in Clacton, who does he actually want to win?
Mr. Speaker, I know that Reform believe in recycling politicians. I wonder that's if he really thought spending his summer arguing with a bin was what he had in mind when he defected to the benches up there.
That's sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Monday will mark 10 years to the brutal rape and murder of my constituent Samia Shahid in a so-called honour killing. Can I first thank the Prime Minister for all his leadership on the agenda for ending violence against women and girls? And can he join me in reaffirming the UK's commitment to end this abhorrent killing in the name of so-called honour, not just here in England, but across the world?
Well, can I pay heartfelt tribute to her for everything she has done to campaign and draw attention to this issue, and the very powerful and personal way in which she argues it. And when she spoke in this House earlier this year, it was compelling for all of us, for all the right reasons, and I thank her for that, and I know she will continue to do so for many, many years to come, and right so, and thank her.
Alison Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to put on record my appreciation for the hard work of the Prime Minister's ministerial team in DEFRA in tackling the absolute failings of South East Water. But last Friday, 1,200 pupils at Downlands Community School in Hassocks were sent home because they had no water. For those children, for their parents, for their teachers, it was another reminder of South East Water letting communities down. I'm sure the Prime Minister would agree that something as basic as turning on the tap should never be in doubt. So, before new housing developments are approved, does he agree that water companies should be compelled to confirm that they have the capacity to provide a reliable water supply to those new homes.
Yeah. Well, this incident is completely unacceptable, and every customer deserves reliable, resilient services, particularly during extreme heat where there's a risk to public health. The Water Minister has met the company's leadership to demand improvements and will follow up in that way.
Whereas, Mr Speaker, even GB News is now admitting that with small boat crossings down more than 40% this year, the Prime Minister's strategy to smash the trafficking gangs is working. With the costly fiasco of the Conservatives' Rwanda scheme long behind us and our relationship with our nearest neighbours and friends in France rebuilt, does the Prime Minister think that now is the time to establish a safe and legal route between Planet Sigma 9 and Clacton?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr Speaker, I am pleased that net migration is down 82%. Small boat crossings are down 40%. The asylum backlog is down. We're closing asylum hotels, and we deported 70,000 people with no right to be here. That's what this government's delivering.
Mr Speaker, books are going to be written about how a mayor of Manchester has managed to outmanoeuvre a sitting Prime Minister with a 170-seat majority and take the keys to number 10. The Prime Minister appears to have been brought down by an inability to articulate a plan for government. So it must be tough, Mr Speaker, it must be tough to be replaced by a man who refuses to say whether he's even got a plan. So as the Prime Minister bows out, done in by his honourable friends, does he argue with me, does he agree with me that in a few months' time we'll all be missing him? Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the economy has been stabilised. We've got stronger public services. 500,000 children are being lifted out of poverty. Got biggest investment in defence and security since the 1980s, and our international standing has been restored. That's not just a plan, it's a plan being delivered.
Can I congratulate the Prime Minister yesterday on being recipient of the Légion d'honneur medal and also on the Public Office Accountability Bill? Would he agree with me that all those scandals that will never happen again because of this, I include Grenfell and Windrush, sometimes the media have twisted the knife a bit and made the pain harder for the victims' families. So could he not revisit some of these same principles, accountability and justice, for the gutter press?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr Speaker, I'm very proud that we delivered the Hillsborough Law yesterday, and it is important to recognise there's always been an initial injustice and then a further injustice otherwise after it when the state doesn't acknowledge and get to the truth. We're putting that right with the Hillsborough Law.
Morgan.
Thank you very
Didn't
much,
answer the
Mr.
question,
Speaker.
though.
After 16 years of Conservative administration, Shropshire Council's finances were left in a disastrous state. Now, after an LGA peer review praised the Lib Dem administration for making significant strides since last May, that difficult financial situation remains. The Right Honourable Member for Makerfield has promised Manchesterism for the rest of the country, but will the Prime Minister join me in urging him to remember that the rest of the country doesn't all look like Manchester and rural areas need a fair deal too?
Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, she's right to raise rural areas, and that's why we put record investment into our local authorities and into our NHS across the country, including in Shropshire.
Joanna Baxter.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My constituent and Scottish football superfan, Craig Ferguson, has just returned home after working for 108 days across 3,000 miles in the United States to raise funds for Scottish Action for Mental Health. He's raised over £1 million. I know this is an issue the Prime Minister cares very deeply about. Can I thank him for his leadership? And will he join me in congratulating Craig and everyone who supported his actions to raise money for mental health?
Well, can I join her in praise and pay tribute to Craig? I believe there's a famous Scottish song about walking 500 miles and then another 500, but to surpass that is an amazing achievement. We all pay tribute.
Forster.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We've all enjoyed watching England's success in the World Cup in the last few weeks. As his last act as Prime Minister before he leaves office, will he agree to grant us a bank holiday so we can celebrate England's win?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, I've been careful not to tempt fate and jinx the result, and I'm a passionate Arsenal and England supporter, and I've watched many games, agonising moments. But, Mr Speaker, on the question of a bank holiday, he should ask me again on Sunday.
Mr Speaker, second time. Prime Minister won't need reminding about. The Prime Minister won't need reminding about Arsenal's success in the Premier League last season, and my right honourable friend, the member for Makerfield, won't want reminding that Everton, unfortunately for him, came 13th. But what neither of my right honourable friends may know is the UK finished 20th in the Corruption Perceptions Index, well within the relegation zone. At the Prime Minister's request, last week, the Ethics and Integrity Commission produced a comprehensive set of recommendations to tighten up rules around lobbying. In light of recent stories around the leader of Reform UK, does he agree with me that these recommendations...
Well, can I pay tribute to the Commission and their work? The work of strengthening our democracy will and must continue.
Susan Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to wish the Prime Minister well in what he does next. The future of communities like mine in Mid Dumbartonshire is uncertain, where hyperscale data centres are set to be built. These large data centres in Scotland's planning system could demand more power than the whole of Scotland needs at its winter peak. Can the Prime Minister assure my constituents they won't find they're fighting for electricity during the cold winter days?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's very important that we have all the resources we need to provide the energy we need and to bring the price of energy down, and that is what we're doing.
Right, final question, Caroline Harris.
Ooh, I can do this. Can I thank my right honourable and very dear friend for everything he's given to our party and our country. There were few who believed we could make the changes needed to bring in a Labour government after the general election of 2019 when he became leader. But today, because of his service and his leadership, children are growing up in a fairer Britain. We stand tall on the world stage, and every day we've seen his decency and his courage shine through. Can I thank him and his wonderful family on behalf of me and my family for their cherished friendship, and I am certain everyone will join me in wishing him and his family the very, very best for their next chapter.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for her question, for her support and friendship, to me, to Vic and to the kids. Whatever the challenge, she has always been there for us, particularly Vic and the kids, and I really thank her for that. Mr. Speaker, this will be my last answer from this dispatch box. Every Prime Minister knows when they take up the torch that the day will come when they have to pass it on. That day has come for me. This is the end of my political journey. In 6 years, went from historic defeat in 2019 to historic victory in 2024. And in 2 years in government, I leave the country in better shape than I found it. I am proud of everything that we have achieved. Mr. Speaker, can I just take time to say to you, Mr. Speaker, and all those who work for the House and in our constituency offices, thank you for all your hard work. To our civil service, thank you also for all your hard work. To my political team, many of them here today, who came on this journey with me, thank you so much for everything you have done and being prepared to walk through fire for me. To my colleagues on these benches, I am proud of all we have achieved together and proud of each and every one of you. To my successor and each of you, I will give my full support. To all colleagues across the House, can I wish you good health and happiness. To all those in the gallery whose lives have been changed or improved by this Labour government, and all across the country who struggle to be seen or heard, you're the reason I came into politics. To my wife and children, I love you. Goodbye.
Well, round of applause. You're supposed to applaud in Parliament.
Can I just say, as the curtain has fallen, this House quite rightly cheers out the Prime Minister. I'm sorry we're still clapping. We don't do clapping in the House. We cheer. We hold our order papers up. That is the farewell that we should always give to a Prime Minister.
Told you.
We
Not supposed to clap. We'll be told off.
Front benches change over.
Okay, right. Whew. Well, there you go. That was quite an emotional PMQs. It's kind of expected it to be. Very good-natured, incredibly good-natured. Even Richard Tice wasn't a complete twat. I mean, fucking Danny Kruger had to go at being a complete twat, but you know that comes naturally, I guess, to him. But yes, so let's go through it. Historic loss, historic victory with less votes. Well, first of all, I had to correct you there, Captain Coconut, because it should be fewer votes because it's countable. But secondly, the number of seats they got went up. Doesn't matter how many votes you got. That's not our system. That is not our system. That's not the way we play it. So everyone's just full and they're just all leaving the chamber now. Everyone's just filing out. Starmer just walked out at the end there, which isn't usual. I don't know. I can't remember because I've been doing these PMQs for quite a while now. I think I started doing them when I would have started doing them when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister each week. So it's quite some time now. I think I started doing this in 2021. So it's probably about 5 years I've been covering PMQs. And thank fact this finally over, says Hannah. Just tell us what you really think, Hannah. Tice is always a complete twat. Yeah. And California Dream says coup d'etat by gutless Burnham and his lily-livered supporters. Well, I mean, as I said in the description of this video, I don't bear any particular ill will to Starmer. I don't hate him. I don't love him. I don't hate him. Do you know what I mean? He's a guy who did the job that needed to be done. Detoxified Labour, got them electable. Electable, okay? It doesn't matter how many fans you have as, it's fine if you're a pop star or you're a comedy show on the BBC and there's like 1 million people who absolutely fucking love you. I mean, that's great. You can get on with it. But if you've got 1 million people who absolutely love you, but then you've got 20 million people who absolutely fucking hate your guts, I don't fancy your chance as much. And that was the situation with the previous leader of Labour and also with the dishonourable former member for Clacton, Nigel Farage. People fucking hate him. People absolutely hate him. And one of the things that I found a bit weird about Starmer was the absolute vitriol that people had against him. And I could understand it for Boris Johnson. I mean, he partied while the rest of us couldn't visit our relatives. That dickhead Rishi Sunak wasting 800 billion fucking pounds on it's 800 million, sorry. 800 million pounds on the Rwanda scheme that went nowhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, what was that? You sent 2 people over there and they went voluntarily. We had to pay them, etc. Yeah. Thank you for your service, Graham. Hands down, the best place to endure PMQs. Thank you very much, SG. I'm glad we can have a chat about it because, a lot of the stuff when we do a watch party, and we do watch parties for this, we sometimes do it for question time or for speeches and things like that. Whenever you watch it direct on YouTube, it's just a pain in the arse because if you want to comment something, it's especially if it's a popular thing that's going on. First of all, your comment just disappears straight away, so no one gets to read it out. But secondly, it's just spam. It's just so much spam, or like vote reform, vote reform, vote reform. You have someone typing it over and over again, or go to this website for porn, or whatever it is they want to put out there. So I like having this opportunity, and I think a couple of weeks ago I did it where I wasn't here, but what I was able to do, even though I was going out at the time that Prime Minister's Questions was on, I could set it up in advance and then go to the appointment and then come back and you could all talk amongst yourselves as it was going on. There's a few interesting comments at the end of that, by the way, when I came back to turn it off. It was like, I don't know, it was like 2 hours later or something. So Prime Minister's question had long finished. We were like, why are we still here? I was like, I just kind of left it running for you, but I wasn't there. But I mean, that works. I like having this, so we're going to continue to do it. There's some good jokes in there. There's some actually good jokes. I mean, I think I did actually, against my better judgment, I did actually lol at one of the Kemi Badenoch jokes. Bloody hell. I don't know what's wrong with me today. But yes, because he was a human rights lawyer, he did things contrary to human rights. Those are trans, the poor and disabled, which goes against him, says Peter Paints a lot. Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, there were things he did that were fucking big mistakes, huge mistakes. Someone described it yesterday in the chat as like Sideshow-Bob just standing on rakes. I thought that was a great analogy. That's what it was like. Doof, oh, fucking doof, doof. And I hope that he's set things up to make it easier for Andy Burnham to actually change things. But I think, and this isn't a defense of Starmer, I think there were other problems as well, mostly to do with his delivery, mostly to do with the fact that he was an old school MP, Prime Minister, and we've moved on, the world of social media and 24-hour news and all this kind of stuff, the internet. I think that he would have done very well in the 50s or 60s. But right now, as things, even in the 90s, he probably would have done all right. But as things stand, he needs to be a bit more comm savvy, a bit more tech savvy, a bit more social media savvy, a bit more savvy, and not make so many gormless mistakes, which he absolutely did. The fact that this horrific trans guidance, which is coming in at the beginning of August, is under his watch is just mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And I said to MPs, why can't you just use a statutory instrument to amend the Equality Act to just put one line in to say, for the purposes of this act, trans men means men covers cisgender men and transgender men, and women covers cis women and transgender women. That's it. You just put that line in there, like one line, and that would change everything. Because don't forget, the Supreme Court made a decision based on the law, right? They didn't make the law. They didn't bring in the bathroom ban. That was an interpretation of a poorly written law in 2010, the Equality Act, which could have been written better. And obviously, because it wasn't written better, it's been used by the advocates of transphobia and attacks on trans people in order to say, oh, well, there's a bit of wiggle room there. Like the right to bear arms suddenly means every American is issued an AR-15 at birth. Because there's a bit of wiggle room. There's a bit of wiggle room. It's like in the Bible. I mean, the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill. Oh, yeah, but that only means premeditated murder, doesn't it? No, it says thou shalt not kill. It doesn't say anything about whether it's premeditated or not. It just says you shouldn't kill. Just saying. But this anti-trans stuff must be targeted to appeal to someone who, ask Andy, the oil companies, I'll tell you this straight, the fucking oil companies, they control them and the people who buy bonds and the people who own the fucking stock markets and all that kind of shit, right? It is do as we say or we'll fund your opposition. And they're doing it. They're funding fucking Nigel Farage to the tune of millions and millions of pounds. They're funding the newspapers, which are actually in hock with these monsters. I'm just hoping that Burnham gets a good, clear run. I thought his maiden speech last night about Hillsborough in Parliament was fucking amazing. It was one of the best speeches I've heard in Parliament for a long time. I think he did really well, and there was a chance for a bit of, he speaks like a normal person. I think that's what I like about Burnham. But again, like I said this morning, I've been saying all along this, I don't think he's a silver bullet. I don't think he's going to fix out all the problems that Labour have. I don't think he's going to fix all the problems that the country has. But I think he might do a better job than Keir Starmer did. But, I'm open-minded about it. I'll wait and see. I'm not one of these people who, before we do the match, we go, oh, we lost it. I don't know. I just don't know. Kimberly says he was good but weak. It's what he didn't do. It's the sellouts post-election, Graham. the lack of spying on Gaza, something that Andy Burnham has addressed. He's done a video saying, we need to be stronger on the Israeli crimes that have been committed in Gaza, cuddling up to the right and failure to protect our minorities. Yeah, Kimberly, I agree. I mean, the whole thing about going after Pip in the way that they did was really heavy-handed. Getting rid of the winter fuel allowance, although I agree that people who are earning Brewsters in their retirement should not be getting fucking 300 quid a year off the government. This is ridiculous when there's, kids living on the fucking streets. At the same time, like I've lost my thread on that one, but yeah, with Gaza in particular, there are issues that go beyond Israel, like there is a fucking nutter in charge in the White House. Now, Andy Burnham, if he's, God's, fucking bestow some kind of, what would you call it, a honeymoon period on him that Keir Starmer didn't seem to get, or at least he seemed to have squandered. I'm hoping that he gets in. I'm hoping that he formulates what he's going to do over the summer, comes back in September into Parliament, all guns blazing, metaphorically at least. And I'm hoping that the worldwide political situation changes, right? So here's the deal, right? You're the Prime Minister and you fucking hate what Israel's done to Gaza. Okay, so here are your options. Do you want to put full diplomatic sanctions on Israel? Do you want to make sure that, this isn't just members of the Israeli government? That's already been done by this government. Not just recognizing Palestine as an independent state, which has been done by this government, but going further, putting sanctions, not just on the members of the Netanyahu government who are wanted war criminals and scumbags, but putting sanctions on the country as a whole, right? You do that. And that's an option. That is an option on the table. And obviously, there's a lot of people probably watching this now go, yeah, fuck him. But if you do that, this is what happens. These are the consequences, not just for Anglo-Israeli companies and trade and stuff like that. Don't forget, Israel is one of only 8 countries, well, 9 actually, if you include Taiwan, 9 countries in the whole of Asia that, 5 countries, sorry, 5 countries in the whole of Asia that have advanced economies like our own. And I know it's a small country, both in population and in geographical size. However, it does have an outsized reach over into the United States of America. And it's not just Donald Trump who's up the arse of Netanyahu. It's also all of the fucking Democrats as well. AIPAC or whatever it's called over in America, the Israeli Political Action Committee is just fucking huge and well-funded, and it has a lot of politicians in its pocket. Now, one thing is telling Israel to fuck off, right? On the back of that, America will get its back up, and it's not just going to be Trump saying, we're going to have fucking tariffs on you and stuff like that. You're going to see, for quite a long time, as American politicians, but also American business people saying we don't want to do business with the UK because they've treated Israel unfairly, etc. Okay, so that happens, our economy goes down. When our economy goes down, it's a simple thing. Kids go hungry in this country. And finding that balance of admonishing Israel for its crimes against the people of Palestine, but not making it so that the people in this country are punished because of your stance, is a fine line. And that isn't defending Starmer, by the way. I'm just trying to explain how difficult these things are when we talk about international politics and when we talk about the sort of law of unintended consequences. Every decision that you make on a international diplomatic level, there will be consequences. Now, what I'm hoping against hope, is that Andy Burnham comes in, all guns blazing, in September. We have a really successful Labour conference in Liverpool at the end of September, beginning of October. And then, I think in October, they have the elections in Israel. I'm really, really, really hoping that Netanyahu gets yeeted out of government and then he stands trial for crimes. There's 3 different court cases. 3 different court cases going against him for corruption, by the way, in Israel right now. So he gets yeeted out of office, goes to fucking jail. Meanwhile, I'm hoping against hope that the American midterms will not be fannied around with, let's say, by Trump, which he wants to do. We know he wants to do this because he's made it fucking very clear. In fact, he's just disbanded this cross-party group that checked voting machines and checked it was all regular. It was instituted after the 2000 election when Al Gore and George W. Bush were stood against each other, and Bush won by fucking 500 votes in the state of Florida or something, helped by the fact that his mate Jeb Bush was the governor there, etc. And this group was 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. It was a cross-party, bipartisan group, and they were there to ensure the fairness of elections, national elections. And one of the people on this committee was on the way home in the airport after checking some voting machines, and Trump has disbanded it. They've gerrymandered. They've brought in, the Jim Crow era rules. They've brought them back about, telling people they can't vote. They're trying to bring in the Save Act, which would mean that if you can't vote if your name now is different to on your birth certificate. And they're selling this as like, this will stick one to the trans people. Yeah, it's not just the trans people who change their name. Married women change their name quite a lot. So if you're married and you turn up with your birth certificate and they're like, no, that's not the name we've got down on the voter registration roll, you won't be allowed to vote. So they're disenfranchising millions of women. And they're going to do this simply for the midterms because they know that they're going to get their arse kicked and women are more likely to vote for Democrat. But hoping against hope, right? Burnham comes in all guns blazing. The situation changes in Israel. So it's not a case of that we need to put sanctions on them to the level that we really should right now if there were no big consequences. Don't forget, when we put sanctions on Iran or sanctions on Russia, it doesn't really affect us that much. I mean, it does a little bit, but nothing like what austerity or Brexit or COVID or Liz Truss's mini budget affected us. But when we put sanctions on countries that America fucking likes, that's going to have blowback on us. So I'm hoping there'll be a new government. That by the end of this year, there's a new government in Israel, and that fucking dickhead Trump has his hands tied from January next year when the new senators and members of the House of Representatives come in, and he does not have the power that he has right now. That's what I'm hoping. But all things being equal, I keep saying this, it's not what the billionaires want. It's not what the billionaires want. So that always worries me. But there was a question in there about, fucking British corruption in British politics and, second jobs and all that kind of stuff. The media have an agenda and previously set up attack lines. Black saying Burnham won't touch trans rights. He just won't. I think that Burnham would be more amenable to doing something about this than Starmer is. I think that, especially who Andy represents and who he's always represented in the past, him coming from Liverpool, growing up in Warrington, halfway between Liverpool and Manchester, being the Metro Mayor for Manchester for 8 years, which, there is a huge gay scene in Manchester. We need to keep our pressure on him. I don't think it's helpful to just go, fuck it, he's not going to do anything. I think we have to make him do something and just get on him and just make sure that every meeting that we can possibly have set up to talk about this and say, this is unfair, this is ridiculous, it's unmanageable. And to go back to Phil Morehouse's, spreadsheet mentality, it doesn't win them any votes. It just loses the votes. So even if he was a transphobe, which he isn't, but, even if he was, just say, well, listen, yeah, this is not good for your party. You are losing votes. You're not gaining any votes. All the transphobes are voting for refuck or the Tories anyway. You've lost them. Don't worry about them. Andy says, did you see the drained reflecting pool? Turns out the 300-foot box cutter slit was a drain. I know. Well, there's also marks where the tracks were for the cars, weren't they? And it's completely filthy as well. It's covered in dirt. Like, you can't see any of the blue. The blue's all gone. The blue's not. Maybe they'll clean it and then you'll see the blue underneath, but the fuck. Yeah, tyre tracks from when Trump he drove his fucking cars along the fucking reflecting pool, and it was just like, you're gonna wreck it, and he did. While Trudeau's been elected into a very socially conservative seat, he may feel pressure to hold back on socially progressive policies. That's my concern, says Grim Fang. Yes, I completely agree. Do not disagree with that for 1 second. I think you're right about that. But this is why it's very important to keep at them. And I was amazed the other day. There was a lesbian Labour MP who does a lot for the LGBT plus community, and she was posting on TikTok about, you know, standing up for trans rights and how important this was, and talking about the private members bill, so the early what's it called, the early day motion that's been brought forward by Labour MPs in order to stop this stupid trans guidance bullshit, this bathroom ban, which is effectively what it is. And I put to her what I just said about why don't you just use the statutory instruments to change the Equalities Act? It's simple. And she's like, oh, I've never thought of that. And I'm like, how? I thought of that, and I'm not a fucking politician. How could you not think, well, actually, if we just change the Act, then the Supreme Court ruling doesn't stand, because that was based on the Act, and the Act is wrong, because the Act has been, it's allowed itself to be interpreted in a way that it shouldn't have been interpreted. Also, what we need to do, and I should have mentioned this morning when I was going off on one about bloody J.K. Rowling, is litigation. We should get together, you know, the trans lobby, the trans activists. Let's get together the trans. I don't know where these trans activists are. Never met any of them, but you know, the trans activists. Let's get them all together. Let's get everyone together, right? And what we'll do is we'll make a list of companies to start suing because they don't provide the correct toilets. Because that's the thing with the bathroom ban. It's like they have to provide a toilet. And if they don't, then you can do them. And they say, well, you can use a disabled toilet. Well, if you need a disabled key, can't use it, can you? So, yeah. She's bi, not lesbian, says Millian. Okay, bye. Yeah, Samantha Niblet. Samantha Niblet, her name is, yeah. Indeed. Israel isn't going to stop until they have the whole Middle East, says Andy. I don't think they want the whole Middle East, mate. Come on, that would be... How would the bureaucracy work? How would the civil service work? I think what there is a minority of fucking lunatics in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, who are ultra-orthodox, ultra-religious fucking nutters. The same kind of nutters that strap bombs to themselves and run into a crowded marketplace if they're growing up with Islam. And the same people who, well, it was actually the Tamil Tigers who invented suicide bombing. They were Hindu. So yeah, Hindu extremists, big problem. Christian extremists, big fucking problem in America. And in Israel, you have Jewish extremists who make their Judaism everything in their life. And part of their belief is that if you are from a different religious background, then you don't deserve to live in this in the West Bank or Palestine. They want to take over that whole area and declare it their own, which is cruel and unfair to the people who live there. Then again, I mean, the Argentinians keep banging on that they want the Falkland Islands back. That is one of the weird things, actually, the Falkland Islands. I find that's one of the few things where the right and the left come together and just go, no, fuck off. Because it's very hard to argue from this sort of imperialistic ambitions. This is coming from an imperialistic country like fucking England, who I think invented imperialism, you know. Saying, hang on, but the people there don't want to be run by you. The people in the West Bank and the people in the Gaza Strip do not want Benjamin Netanyahu as their fucking leader. They'd rather fucking Hamas, mate. So, yeah. Anyway, But let's go through the final PMQs. Starmer said his final farewell to MPs, saying he was proud to leave the country in a better shape than he found it, which, he did. He also, Labour's in a better shape than he found it. And Caroline Harris was the last question. She said, but today, because of his service and leadership, children are growing up in a fairer Britain. We stand tall on the world stage, and every day we've seen his decency and courage shine through. And to the Starmer, this is my last answer from the dispatch box. He talked about it being the end of his political journey. He said he thanked the Speaker and those who work for the House and the constituency officers, to the civil service, to his political team, his colleagues in Labour on these benches, to Andy Burnham, his successor. I give my full support. To colleagues across the House, wish you good health and happiness, which is nice. And to those in the gallery whose lives have been changed. So when he was getting questions from Kemi Badenoch, he didn't answer any of the questions, by the way. We'll go over this. He didn't answer any of the questions, but what he did do is he said, there's someone in the gallery who I want to highlight and said something about them. Imperialism wasn't invented by Britain. It was invented by a Sargon of Akkad. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Timberlane. Genghis Khan. But yeah, I mean, that's I feel a bit more positive than I did a few months ago, and I can understand why some viewers watching this are feeling less positive. But I am still hopeful. Look, I'm an eternal fucking optimist, and do you know what's fucking great? Death. Death's fucking brilliant, because you know what? All these cunts who are making our lives a fucking misery, one day they will die. One day they will not be with us. Hurrah. And maybe it's our job to make sure that ludicrous people don't appear in their stead. Do you know what I mean? Don't grow up thinking that being a horrible bastard is a good idea. You should make it so being a horrible bastard is a terrible, terrible idea that no one should indulge in. So the PMQs started off with Keir Starmer gave a tribute to Anne Widdecombe. He talked about the Hillsborough Bill. He talked about tonight at 8:00, the England match. Then we had Graham Stewart, the Conservative, who wished Starmer all the best. He made a football politics analogy where he said there was 400 dodgy refs in the Labour Party who were given a red card, and asked Keir Starmer for advice for Andy Burnham, and Starmer said, "Oh, you compare me to Jude Bellingham, that's nice." And he talked about the red card from Trump Trump got overturned, and how he was tempted to try and get our red card overturned, but he didn't do it. And he said he didn't care what the score was tonight as long as we win. That's an okay joke, but it's an old one. It sounds like something that Bill Shankly would say, wouldn't it? Don't care what score we get as long as we win. He's the guy who says, some people think that that football is a matter of life and death, and that's just ridiculous. It's far more important than that. Something along those lines. Anyway, then we had Matt Termaine, who is a Labour bod, and Matt talked about peace walk in his constituency after Moss attacked in Watford, his constituency. There was a fire lit in Jewish-owned shops and anti-Semitic graffiti. And Starmer said that the IRGC that's designated now as a terrorist group, and there's £250 million fund to protect Jewish communities. Kemi Badenoch then, she gave a very warm eulogy to Anne Widdecombe and talked about her sense of humour and her honesty. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know about this. When people die. There's a great song by a comedy troupe in America called The Chaser, right? And it's called "Everyone's a Bastard Till They Die," and it is absolutely hilarious. Chaser. There's a lot of Australian there's a lot of Australians in there, so you won't get the joke for it because you won't know who they are. I'm gonna look up the lyrics. Let's have a look. You can find the full lyrics. No. Chasers War and Everything. The show was called. I think it's Everyone's a Top Bloke Till They're Dead. I think that was it. Everyone's a top bloke when you're dead. Let me get this in. Actually, all of Ghost Pro Memorial seems appropriate for right now. The eulogy song. It's called the eulogy song. So yeah, he starts talking about his but yeah, it's yeah, he has a go at Steve Irwin. He has a go at Brocky, who's an Australian fucking motor racer. Then he had a go at he had a go at John Lennon. John Lennon chose the hippie life. He chose some nutbag for a wife, and his songs were never quite as good as Paul's. Jeff Buckley fooled all lovers. Just one album, mostly covers. More wailing than Japan does off its shores. But all of that's forgotten once he took his final breath. Yes, even wankers turn into top blokes after death. He has a go at Princess Di. Then Martin Bright, Kerry Packer, they're Australians. So yeah, the end lines are: remember, all will be forgotten once we take our final breath. Even pervert motherfuckers, even rampant child abusers, even local Baghdad looters, even baby bunner rooters, even reckless drunken drivers, even rodent sperm imbibers, even violent poofter bashers, even public penis flashers, even rotting corpse molesters, even human piss ingesters, even tiny kitten knickers, tiny kitten kickers, even anal finger lickers, even Anna Bloody Corrin, yes, even she will be a top bloke after death. And I think that last line, I mean, Anna Corrin's an Australian, but yeah, Anne fucking Widdecombe, yes, even she will be a top bloke after death. And I was hearing the lyrics to that song in my head. It's a comedy song from a comedy troupe, but like, I was hearing the lyrics in my head when they were talking about Widdecombe, and she was like, she was always very honest, she told you, like, if someone comes up to you in the street and goes, you're a cunt, and you're like, what was that for? And they're like, I just thought, I'm just being honest. I was like, well, how does that help? But yes, she then talked about the fact that this is going to be Keir Starmer's last Prime Minister's question time, and she talked about getting the tone right. She said that she'd be gentler with him than he was with Johnson. Excuse me. And then she talked about when he invited Zelensky to Downing Street after February 28th last year, when that showdown in the fucking White House, which is just disgusting. When Trump and his goons ambushed Zelensky and complained that he wasn't wearing a suit or something daft. And then Starmer talked about Zelensky coming to Downing Street, and he gave him a hug, and people came and cheered for him, and it was the first human contact he'd had since leaving the White House. And then the second question from Kemi Badenoch was about the World Cup, and that the SNP should get behind it. Have you met anyone from Scotland? Anyone but England is their motto. Although I'm sure there's at least one person in Scotland who's going to be supporting England over Argentina. Surely. Maybe someone who fought in the Falklands. She talked about the landslides, the winning landslide after the historic defeat, and then she said, "Oh, well, what are we going to do about this bloke who won't set out his plans for the over the summer?" And everyone's thinking she's going to talk about Andy Burnham. Why hasn't he set out his plans? Why hasn't he told us what he's going to do? And actually, she did a little switcheroo. And she said, no, she was talking about Farage versus Binface, Count Binface. And I was like, yes! In fact, do you know what I should have done? I should have my Binface animation for the confetti. I should have had that set up. Now, thinking about it's too late, but I should have that set up so every time they mentioned Binface, I could have Binface confetti on everyone. But yes. Graham, it's good to be hopeful, and thank you for being the possible positive plays to us. Well, that's what I'm hoping. I try and be quite realistic, and I won't shut people down if they say, "Oh, this isn't going to happen. That's going to happen." I try not to go, "You can't even talk about it. You can't even talk about it because you'll make it happen. You'll manifest it by saying it." If people want to look into all of the different permutations that might come out in the future, it's fair enough. But it's something that seems a bit more likely than others. Then I think it's fair enough for us to chat about it. And Graham Frank says gender critical, transphobic, but they don't want to admit they're bigots. Yeah, I don't get that. Why do we use gender critical? Why do we use TERF? Why don't you just call them transphobes? That's what they are. Go call them bigots. That's what they fucking are. They just absolutely are. To be fair, this didn't hold true for the Soham killer, says Bolskov. Yeah, it didn't hold true for the singer of Lost Prophets, did it? When he got shanked in jail, I think everyone was like, yes. But yeah, it is that when it comes to Anne Widdecombe, I think that song, the eulogy song by The Chaser, it's called. If you want to go and listen to it, it's quite funny. It's played on the piano. It's a bit of a honky tonk piano tune. And like I say, you won't get all the references. You don't probably know who Kerry Packer is, but yeah, the very, very funny show called The Chaser's War and Everything that was broadcast in the 2000s when I was over in Australia quite a lot. And God, it was funny. God, it was. The show, I mean, just in general, the sketches these guys came up with were just absolutely brilliant. Anyway, so then Keir Starmer responded to Kemi Badenoch saying about fucking Farage going up against Binface, saying put your vote in the bin, which I thought was quite good. He said never put Trump on speakerphone. Fair enough. And then Kemi Badenoch said, she's enjoyed the exchanges, and she apparently when they were walking out at one state opening in Parliament, then at one point he said she was a real ray of sunshine. I think he was being sarcastic, Kemi. Anyway, and then she said it's important to respect Parliament, and then she did ask the question about Andy Burnham, whether he's going to respect Parliament and answer questions. To which, I mean, Starmer just ignored the question and just said, I've done 60 of these PMQs. I've given answers to 2,800 times. And then he talked about Billy in the gallery, a woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer, who's done a lot of work for breast cancer research charity. And apparently her breast cancer is in remission, so that was nice. And then Kemi Badenoch reminded Starmer about the quip about the fact that she wouldn't last a year. And he said, life comes at you fast. And talked about political fortunes changing. And any advice for Andy Burnham? To which Starmer said he gives his wholehearted support to his successor. And he'll give advice privately when asked for, not publicly when not asked for. Yeah, a diplomatic answer there. And then he talked about Pooja, whose son was killed. Ronan was killed as a result of someone buying a ninja knife online through like Amazon or something and picking it up at the local post office. So he's made sure that you can't buy knives online anymore. So she was in the gallery, and then she came back with he gave a very diplomatic answer to a question about Andy Burnham. And she then puts out that changing, take it from us in the Tory party, changing the PM is not a silver bullet. And there's difficult decisions to be made. She then asked him, you said that when you pulled certain levers, nothing happened, and again, it was like, what advice have you got for Burnham? And then he just ignored the question again. He didn't answer. I don't think he answered any of the questions today. Like, if you go through it forensically, I've made me notes here. Like, that's what I'm doing, typing along when I'm watching it. He talked about stabilising the economy. He talked about child poverty. He talked about the NHS. He talked about defence. And he talked about Carla, who was in the gallery. Talked about whose child suffered from online harm, and she talked about banning the social media for under 16s, and talked about having safe and secure homes for people. And then Kemi Badenoch's last question, she said, not a single sitting MP could beat him as leader, which was true. That's why no one went up against him before Andy Burnham, because they all knew they couldn't beat him. And then she said, and then she thanked Keir Starmer's family for allowing us to have him as Prime Minister, I guess, for the time. And then Starmer wished her well and said, we had these robust changes, and he thanked her personally for when, after there was an attempt to burn down his family home after his brother died, she privately reached out to him and, thanked her for that. And then he said, opposition, being the opposition, leader of the opposition is the hardest job in politics. And then he started bragging about the fact that he took the worst result since 1935 and then turned it into the best result ever for Labour in the space of just four short years. And then he started talking about 4.5. And then he started talking about anti-Semitism in Labour Party and better protection and stuff like that. Then we had Melanie on, who's a Labour MP, talking about violence against women and girls and the goal of Labour to halve that within the next decade. And Starmer talked about a couple who had lost their daughter to domestic violence, who met 15 years ago, and that set him on this journey, and he hopes that will continue. Then we had Ed Davey, stood up, made a few jokes. I mean, a bit of this was like a best man speech at a wedding, wasn't it? Oh, he's a twat, but he's our twat. Anne Widdecombe talking about Strictly. So, and Ed Davey talking about how he was jealous that Anne Widdecombe was on Strictly Come Dancing. I mean, that was just a wink, wasn't it? Hey, producers of Strictly Come Dancing, would you like another Ed? I know you had Ed Balls on, but would you like Ed Davey? And then he made the joke about this summer election and joke figures with ridiculous policies like Nigel Farage. And he talked about Toy Story. He tried to make an analogy about Toy Story. There's a wooden lawman, bit wooden. Obviously, that's one of the problems with Starmer. He is a bit wooden. And then there was a shiny new action figure, and he was going to take the national debt to infinity and beyond. It was a bit of a, yeah. Is that the best? Anyway, so, and then Starmer stood up, completely ignored the question, and went, "Do you want to come with me to Chesterton Weldon Adventures?" And he was like, "All right." And then the second one, the second question for Ed Davey gets 2 questions. He said he's not always agreed, but he admired the way he led his party, thanked him for his public service, and talked about carers. He's speaking up for family carers. He talked about Starmer caring for his mother and caring for his brother Nick, and Starmer. It was quite a pleasant exchange. He just thanked him back, talked about social care, real experience of a social care that Ed Davey has had, obviously, and then he suggested the 12 noon after the 1st September after 12 noon after the first weekend in September, the first Wednesday after the first weekend in September. Or is it the first Wednesday? No, 12 noon, first Wednesday in September. And that's why he invited him to come to Chesterton Weldon Adventures, because that's when the next PMQ is going to be. And it's not going to be Starmer anymore. It's going to be Andy Burnham. Next up, we had Rachel Maskell, who talked about it being traditional to leave a note for their successor, and she talked about licensing short-term holiday let, so Airbnb getting licensed, which I kind of agree with. I do think it's a bit of Wild West at the moment. And Starmer came back and said, well, we left a note in 2010 and it didn't work out too well. And they talked about affordable housing, which didn't really answer the question, but there you go. There's a theme. There's a theme here. We got Richard Tice stood up and then pointed out that the Starmer's very impressive record that when he's been when he's been Prime Minister, England have won 76% of their games. And Starmer stood up and said, 22 out of 29 matches we've won. And now we want to make it 24 out of 31, winning tonight and then winning on Sunday at the final if we get that far. If we win tonight. Richard Tice just didn't ask a twatty question. I mean, it wasn't a particularly good question. It was just about the footy and like, do you support England? Yeah, I support England. So when they get up and go, is cancer bad? Yeah, they go, cancer's bad. You're like, okay, cool. Don't know what to do with that information. Then we had Julia Buckley, who needs money for Construction Skills Centre in her constituency of Shrewsbury. And Starmer then bragged about 2/3 of school leavers going to uni or gold-plated, copper-bottomed apprenticeships. Then we had David Chadwick at the Lib Dems talking about cuts to beds taken out of community hospitals in Wales, in his constituency in Wales. And Starmer just came back and said, well, you cut the funding in coalition. But I'll give you a better answer in writing, because he wasn't expecting this question. He's just saying they wanted to be nice to him. It's like someone actually asked him a question like, why take these beds away from these people in care? And he's like, oh, I'll answer that later. So the one question that he actually gave an answer to, he was like, I'll tell you later. Lola McAvoy stood up then, and she's from Labour, and she talked about unwanted contacts from adults to children using social media. She talked about viral moments cutting through, and what viral moments cut through in his household. And then Starmer got a chance to talk about his 6/7 experience when he was told later after by the teacher that it was against the rules, and then his response was, I didn't start it. Then we had Alistair Carmichael, Lib Dems, said it was his birthday. It was his birthday actually, and Starmer congratulated him, said happy birthday, even though he's a Lib Dem. Talked about volunteers in the Coast Guard and the RNLI, and Starmer said, yeah, we'll be on it. Then we had Lloyd Hatton from Labour, talked about support for Ukraine, but not getting involved in Iran, and sanctions on hostile states such as Russia and Iran. And that gave Starmer a chance to talk about the coalition of the willing, and the Ukrainian ambassador was in the house, in the balcony. And Ukraine security is our security, as they say. And then we had Refuck, we had Danny Kruger. We had talking about a comedian with a dustbin on his head, and it's like, yeah, this is a Refuck fucker. Eton, I think he went to Eton, is that right? And he was a Tory, and now he's gone to Refuck, and Starmer just made a joke about recycling politicians. And, if he wants to, spend the summer arguing with a man with a bin on his head, then Starmer's not going to stop him. You see, I think Kruger was trying to make a point about the other parties not standing against, what's his name? Farage, Nigel Farage. I think, I said this the other day, like, there's got to be another election. There's going to be, unless Binface fucking wins, which is very, very, very unlikely. But if he does win, fantastic. But if he doesn't win, this dickhead Farage will be in place for a couple more months until the committees, the standards committee gets his final report, and they'll suspend him for 10 days, and there'll be a recall petition, and there'll be another by-election. 50 quid says Burnham makes a 6/7, or God forbid, tongue. 6/7. Noisy fucking cars today. I think there's someone just going around the block just with a noisy car. The answer for Powers should be devolution is a passion project of my apparent. Yes, that would have been a good answer. Cymru, I feel for you next door. If I weren't in Cymru and lived in England, I'll feel pretty fucked. What's that? Fucked right now? The Greens talk good, yet see walk stroke action being achieved. Burnham will split the left. Well, I don't think Burnham will split the left. I think Burnham will be better than Starmer at not splitting the left. But the hard left aren't particularly Labour. I mean, this is what we keep talking about, Labour just going, there wasn't a time in history when Labour were this massively socially progressive fucking party. We just think they were. The first thing that Labour did in 1997, when they won that fucking landslide election, they brought in tuition fees. The only reason why I didn't pay tuition fees is I started university in 1997. But for everyone who started in 98 and didn't defer for a year or whatever, they had to pay tuition fees, £1,000 a year tuition fees. I didn't have to pay that. And I keep on mentioning that, Labour were in charge during the whole, the whole partition of India. But yeah, I do think that I think that the Greens will have a bit of an uphill struggle against Andy Burnham, and I also think that Refuck will have a struggle against him. I don't think there's another MP, not just of Labour, but for any party, who could have stood in Makerfield and won against a Reform candidate. And Andy Burnham did. And yes, he is going to have to be a bit more socially conservative because his constituency is a bit more socially conservative. But I'm hoping that he'll be able to talk to people in a way that gets them on side. Because I think that's the most important thing right now. We need to talk to people. We haven't been talking to people. And Andy Burnham has talked a lot about bringing people in from other parties, getting them on side, getting people together. He's much more. When you saw him on Question Time a month ago or so ago during the Makerfield by-election, the refucker was like, "Oh, going to get rid of all the foreigners, going to do this," and Andy Burnham was like bringing people together and saying, "We're going to work with them, we're going to work with them," and the consensus politics is a model that I prefer anyway, and it's no good us just sitting here and going, "Well, we're just going to have to wait till people stop being so transphobic." Or we're just going to have to wait until people want to join the EU. We need to make the argument, and we need to have politicians making the argument and bringing people on side instead of having this top-down, you will do as we say, and not explaining it. And one of the big criticisms that I do have of Keir Starmer is he never fucking explained anything. I got more information about why Labour were doing what they were doing from Phil Morehouse than anyone else. From anyone in Labour, anyone, the Prime Minister, anyone in Number 10, anyone in, the comms office, they have one, Labour Digital. I got better explanations. Like, why are they doing this, Phil? And Phil would explain, oh, they're doing it because of what X, Y, Z. And they just couldn't do that. I'm hoping that Andy Burnham can do that and explain to people, sounding like me, explaining, or sounding like Phil, explaining why they're doing this thing and why it's a good thing and why we should all get behind it. Instead of just going, we're doing this. And it should be self-evident. Everything should be self-evident. Well, it's not. It's not. People don't notice. Especially if it's incremental change that takes place over a period of time. But yeah, Hidden Knight says, I see Burnham pushing Labour back to being centre or centre-left, but I don't see Burnham fixing a country faster and stronger, but only time will tell. I think one of the big problems we've got in this country at the moment is just that for the last 10 years, because of that fucking Brexit vote, we've all been at each other's throats. And if Andy Burnham can win in that constituency that voted 66% for fucking Brexit, if he can win in that constituency, that gives me hope. Because we do need to move on. We do need to move on. I'm not saying that we should give up our dream of rejoining the EU one day. I'm not going to give that up for anything. For love nor money. But I will. I'm happy to concede that we need to stop doing this the way we are doing it at the moment, and calling all refuckers dickheads. Let's make it so they're not refuckers, and then they won't be dickheads anymore. There you go. Meet me in the middle on that one. So yeah, next up was Naz Shah, the Labour MP, who talked about honour killings, and Starmer thanked her for being so compelling when she spoke in the House about it. Then we had Alison Bennett, who is Lib Dem, and she talked about, she said thank you again. A lot of this was like saying thank you to the Prime Minister for stuff that he actually managed to achieve. And she was talking about DEFRA's coming down like a ton of bricks onto South East Water, letting communities down. She talked about a school where everyone had to go home because there was no running water. And she wanted to make sure that water companies need to confirm that they can provide services before new homes are built, which is, you would think that was already a thing, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Are we going to build a house? Yeah. Have you got any water to go to? Oh, I don't know. Maybe. So yeah, Starmer just replied to that he will demand improvements. Again, not really answering the question. Then we had Perrin Moon from Labour talking about even GB News admitting that small boat arrivals are down, safe and legal. And then he talked about a safe and legal route from, and I was like, yay, because he's going to talk about safe and legal routes for refugees, but he was turning it into a joke about safe and legal routes from Sigma 9 to Clacton, which is bin faces. His home planet and his future constituency. And Starmer just responded with delivering. I think that's all he said. He just said delivering. Then we had Jerome Mayhew at the Conservatives saying that Andy has no plan. And then saying that we're going to miss you. We're going to miss you, Keir. Okay. And then Starmer again ignored the question. He had like a thing written out for like everything. He was just like, right, economy stable, 500,000 children pulled out of poverty, etc., etc. And then we had Rupert Hook, Dr. Rupert Hook, who talked about doing his Hillsborough bill, but for the gutter press. And I was like, yes! And he came back and he said he's very proud of the Hillsborough law. Didn't mention the fucking gutter press. Hopefully that's something that Andy Burnham can look at. Helen Morgan from the Lib Dems said that Shropshire was left in a real mess by the Tories, and then she talked about Manchesterism and whether that's going to work for rural communities. And Starmer said, well, record investment in rural communities. But I think there's a misinterpretation of what Manchesterism is. It's not just about what Andy Burnham's done for Manchester being reproduced all over the country. It's about getting devolution out there. It's about allowing communities to make decisions, and that's going to benefit for that affects themselves, and that's going to benefit rural communities as well as urban communities and cities and things. So then we had Joanna Baxter from Labour talking about Scottish Action for Mental Health. There was a guy who walked across America raising £1 million, Craig, and that was nice. And then Will Forster from the Lib Dems asked about a bank holiday on Monday morning Monday, not just the morning, the day. You get a bank holiday if England win, and Starmer said, don't want to jinx it, ask me again on Sunday. Then we had Labour MP standing up and talking about we're 20th in the corruption index, which is not good. And Starmer said, well, we need to strengthen democracy. I'm like, yeah, well, you need to get these fucking political donations in hand. You need to make sure that the gutter press can't write any old shit about people. Because a good point that was made by Rupert Hook about the Hillsborough bill is like, it isn't just that we had Hillsborough and then all these officials, the police officers were involved, they lied about it. It didn't end there, because then you had the Sun newspaper printing that the fans at the match were pissing on the ambulance workers trying to retrieve the bodies. They said that they were stealing money out the pockets of the dead bodies. They said that these people at the stadium were drunk. There were children, and they said these children were drunk. And that was allowed. That was the front cover of the Scum newspaper. It said the truth, and it was all just lies. So yes, we do to help our democracy. We need to stop this misinformation and disinformation from being ubiquitous. Anyway, so then we had Susan Murray talking about power in Scotland to keep the energy price down, and Starmer promised to keep the energy price down. And then finally, Caroline Harris, which I said at the beginning, Caroline Harris, who's a personal friend of Starmer. She was in tears. She was in tears talking about, how they made Britain fairer, and, after taking us back, after the taking Labour back after the defeat, the catastrophic defeat in 2019. Just that Labour standing taller on the world stage, and it was, and then Starmer talked about, he had his pre-written script that he had. He knew that the day would come where he'd have to pass on the torch, and he managed to take a historic defeat and take it to historic victory. He's proud of everything he's achieved, and then he thanked everyone, the speaker and people on the benches and all that kind of stuff. And and then finally he thanked his wife and kids and said, goodbye, I'm out of here, bye. The most animated I've ever seen him. He's like, he does have emotions. Oh my god. It was a bit like the end of the Wizard of Oz, that, wasn't it? It was like, oh, you always did have emotions, Keir. What? I always had a heart? Oh my god. Now you tell me. But yeah, so that was it. That was the end of Keir Starmer's tenure as Prime Minister, as seen through the eyes of someone watching Prime Minister's Questions. Does anyone see a future electable female Labour leader? Well, here's the thing, Colin. I was thinking about this the other day. I think that Andy Burnham, will make it more likely that we could actually see an Angela Rayner premiership, but that's not going to be for maybe until the election in 2034, I guess. I think Burnham's going to probably squeak the next election as things stand. Obviously, a week is a long time in politics. 3 years is a lot longer. But I think he'll squeak it, and then another 5 years of Labour under him, and then maybe, events, dear boy, events. I think that his northernness and the fact that he's, chill and, talks like a normal person, I think that would make people warm more to the possibility of having Angela Rayner in his as Prime Minister. So yeah, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future with female MPs. I'm hoping that Labour will have a female leader at some point. It seems absolutely ridiculous to me that the Tories have had four leaders, 4 female leaders, 3 of them prime ministers, and Labour have had none. Never ever had a woman leader, which is kind of. Grimfang says history will be kind to Starmer. He was the wrong man in the wrong place at the wrong time, but he did a solid job at many things, but he failed in places that matter for the public. Yeah. And he made mistakes. And we cannot shy away from that. There's some Starmer fans who are like, "Oh my God, he's been at this. It's so unfair. He's had his premiership taken from him by Andy Burnham." It's like, well, no, like someone else would have taken the job if they'd been able to. But there was no one who had the popularity of and the clean sheet, let's say, that Burnham brings with him. So I do think history will be kind to him, but it will admit that he made mistakes. And now he can run around being an elder statesman and appearing on things, talk about football. The Irish reunification bill is proposed to be ready for 2030. Good luck with that plan in England while we're planning on fucking off over the next 3 to 4 years. I mean, there's an issue with the Irish reunification in that some people in the Republic of Ireland do not want Northern Ireland because it's a big fucking headache. These dickheads building these massive fucking bonfires. There's murals everywhere. There's gates up. They don't allow kids to walk across their area because they go to the wrong school and throw stones at little kids. There's nutters. There's a lot of nutters in Northern Ireland because England put them there. But there are a lot of nutters. There's a lot of people in Northern Ireland. There's like a lot of people in the Republic of Ireland that do not want. They don't want it. It's just too much of a headache. Who though, not Rayner, whose negative image has been drawn by the media. I think Yvette Cooper would be a future leader, but that ship has sailed. Yeah. If he was a prime minister in a stable period, he likely would have been great as a prime minister who quietly did their job. Everything is loud and on fire. You need courage to put that out. Yeah. And I think that's the challenge that Burnham will rise to, I hope. And get across that whole cheeky Scouser persona. He's got a good joke. He doesn't have to read it off a card. Do you know what I mean? On an auto cue. You're right. It's time to pull the plug on Schrodinger's Brexit. More fitting than being Brexit than the Mitch McConnell paradox. It's alive, but it's been dead for a long time. Yeah. But I will counsel everyone just to say, calm your jets. I don't think that he is going to change the world within a year. Within a week, and definitely not, probably not within a year. I feel like that the hope is by the time the next election rolls round, we will be in a position where we can get behind Labour and say, yep, they've done a lot of good stuff. And Burnham will be given accolades for doing that. One of the first things I know that a lot of people on this channel who watch this channel will want Labour to see is to deal with this ridiculous fucking guidance that's come out, the bathroom ban. And we need to do everything in our power to fuck shit up. So that does not work. It doesn't work for anybody. That's odd because the Irish Parliament that tabled the bill in coordination with Northern Ireland. Yeah, no nation shares one opinion, but Ireland will be whole again, says Cymru. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not a majority view. I'm saying that there are people in Ireland that the Republic of Ireland do not want Northern Ireland because it's going to be a fucking headache. And then you've got the people who live in Northern Ireland who will start killing people if they don't get their way. The Unionists. And at the moment, Brexit's obviously thrown a spanner in the works here, but if you are born in Northern Ireland at the moment, you can have the choice between having a British passport or an Irish passport. You can claim to be Irish or you can claim to be British. Oh, that's fine. Then United Ireland will have its very own terrorist problem, says Andy. Yeah, that's the problem, Andy. You're not the only person who's pointed this out, because the Unionists are not going to go quietly into the good night, or the bad night in their fucking respect. I hope you're right about Burnham, but as a trans woman, I'm preparing for lawfare and civil disobedience. Good, Jenny, go for it. Like, honestly, I was talking earlier, but saying, you know, getting these, go for lawfare, go for these big companies, make a list and say, I tried to go to the toilet in your place and there was nowhere for me to go. And therefore, I'm suing you under the Equality Act. And just say, suddenly there's thousands of these cases around the country against all these companies. Do you reckon they're going to just sit there and go, oh, that's all right, we'll just settle out of court? No, they're fucking not. They're going to go to the government and go, excuse me, can you sort out this stupid fucking guidance that's costing us a lot of money? We have the time to be dealing with all these lawyers and all these, you know, legal fucking pressing things. And no. And I think that at the end of the day, it will be companies, it will be service providers, it will be people, you know, run cafes and bars and restaurants and venues around the country that are going to put the pressure on the government to fucking end this. End this stupid. Yeah. If having Northern Ireland's a headache, Westminster is an aneurysm with a guaranteed stroke. I mean, I wouldn't wish Northern Ireland. I wouldn't wish East Belfast on anyone. Wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But there you go. I know I'm slightly biased there because obviously my ancestry. Then again, I could say my ancestry is Irish Catholic, but my ancestry is just as Irish bloody Protestant. So, yeah. I blame Oliver Cromwell. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I blame Cromwell. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's the guy who went over to Ireland and fucked shit up for people for no good reason. He was a religious zealot. I genuinely think that Starmer, all in all, he I'm going to piss people off by saying this. I think he's one of the best prime ministers that we've had this century, since the millennium. But to just caveat that, that's not saying much. So yeah, best of a bad bunch, I think you could argue. I think his I think his legacy is going to be more positive than people's feeling about him right now. You know, as time goes on. And you know, I just want to say about that particular exchange in Parliament just then, Prime Minister's questions. I think that as we as a society have become more polarized, more unpleasant and aggressive in the last decade, it did give me a bit of hope seeing that all those MPs from all those different parties basically being all right. You know, there's a few jibes there, but, you know, they're friendly natured and treating people as humans rather than as political pawns or, you know, people who are automatically thrown into the scum bin. And I think that Kemi Badenoch, well, that's one of her best performances, to be honest with you. Not that she got an answer out of Keir Starmer, but I think it was it was fitting. It was fitting the way that they interacted. And when Andy Burnham comes along, I hope that it's not just go straight back to Punch and Judy politics. It might be, because I don't know if you remember, but the first Prime Minister's questions that Starmer did after becoming Prime Minister, it was up against Rishi Sunak, who was then the leader of the opposition before Kemi Badenoch was elected, and it was remarkably nice. You know, he was asking about what he's going to do about defence, what he's going to do about this, what he's going to do about that, and it wasn't like, why don't you resign? Why are you such a cunt? Why does everyone hate you? Why do you smell so bad? Do you know what I mean? It was just like, what's the government's policy on this? And he stood up and said, this is the government's policy on this. Yeah, okay, cool. Essentially, I know it was a bit more than that, but yeah, you know, normal service will resume shortly, and in the meantime, apparently Zia Youssef has just done a press conference. I've got to look this up. Sorry, while I've been rabbiting away here, Zia Yusuf press conference. When is this? Has this already happened? Live. I was on Guido Fawkes. Zia Yusuf hosts press conference on security concerns. He will authorise round-the-clock security for all MPs if he becomes Home Secretary. Well, I think that's what Labour are going to do anyway, so great policy, mate. I think they're going to do it anyway. When she tries really hard, even Badenoch can seem human. Yeah. And Grimfang said, I agree. I actually like Badenoch when she's being respectful, much better looking there. Yeah, because when she's trying to be horrible, she just comes across as disgustingly smug. You know, just fucking you know, head girl energy. You know what I'm talking about. Has Donaldson's sex crimes been big news in England? Well, I mean, it was news. It was reported on, but no, it wasn't as fucking huge as when we found out like Jimmy Savile or something. I don't know. One hope for Burnham, says Grimfang. They do something about the current government's utterly incoherent internet regulation policy, strict legislation. Well, yeah, there's a lot to do. And Farsight says that's a low bar, talking about the best prime minister this century. I know. Best isn't the metric I think we should be using. I think we agree in saying he wasn't the shittest MP we've had. Sorry, the shittest. He wasn't the shittest prime minister we had. Yeah. But I mean, even Gordon Brown, that a lot of people on the left, they respect Gordon Brown, but he never won an election. Keir Starmer won an election and won a fucking landslide. And I know we go back to that thing of like, oh, but he didn't win as many votes as the previous guys. It doesn't matter. The system we have is you have to appeal to a broad church of voters. You can't just appeal to one hardcore group of nutters. And that's what Refuck are trying to do. They're trying to appeal to one hardcore group of nutters. And everyone else is just like, we can complain all day about the first past the post system. And obviously we sometimes do. But at the same time, I do feel like it does ensure that if you want to win an election, you have to get everyone on board. Sorry, not everyone, but as many people as you can on board. You have to win constituencies. You have to get the most number of votes in a constituency where their priorities in that constituency are very different to my priorities or your priorities. Living in a rural community, what do you give a fuck about? Bus. I suppose you care about buses because the rural buses are shite. But the lack of a metro system in Liverpool or Manchester or whatever. Obviously we have different priorities, and being able to appeal to the broadest range of policies that will bring as many people as possible across the country in as many constituencies and all the different facets of all the different communities. Like, I'm not particularly bothered about flooding where I am in Durham because, we live quite high up. We don't live in a valley. And so we're never going to flood, I don't think. It'd be a bit weird if we did get flooded. In fact, I think if the ice caps melt, we might be all right. We might be all right. We might be on the top. We might be on a bit of a hillock over here. But if you're living in a floodplain, obviously that's going to be first and foremost on your mind. Just as an example off the top of my head. But it is a lot more difficult to get people across the board, get people to change their vote, get people to vote for you when they've never voted your party before, get them on board. It is incredibly difficult. The Tories are very good at it, by the way. The Tories are very good at it. And one of the ways that they do it is they make themselves seem credible. And I think that's what Keir Starmer did. He made Labour seem credible. And I think that's, all things being equal, if he had not made the same stupid mistakes that he made, we're going to pick on going after PIP, going after trans people, going after pensioners for their winter fuel allowance. Bad mistakes, bad mistakes, really bad bits of communication. But what did him in was appointing Mandelson as our ambassador. Because Trump got in, they panicked and they went, we need someone a bit like Trump, otherwise he's going to put fucking towers on us. And it was the wrong move. And he's been punished for it, quite rightly. Quite rightly, he's been punished for it. And he's now no longer, well, from Monday morning, he'll be no longer our Prime Minister. So there you go. How the bloody hell does Zia Yusuf label himself Shadow Home Secretary? He's not even a freaking MP. Yeah, they won't let him stand. He's not the right shade. Just saying. Yeah. Floodplain, the hint is in the name, don't build houses on them. Hey, Andy, did you read the story about the beavers who were saved this part of London from flooding? Have you seen that? It's fucking brilliant. I often think about that, when we got like floods and stuff, a lot of the time it's because of deforestation. And putting fucking hard ground everywhere. Like everything's got to be off hard ground. It's got to be hard ground. No, you leave the soil there. The soil. You have trees and soil. The trees suck up the fucking water from their roots. The soil itself absorbs loads of water, and you don't get flooded so much. Leave the fucking trees there. I would love to see a big reforestation project. I think about this when I drive from Durham across to the Lake District, which I do quite a lot because I don't like going down the M62. Don't make me go down the road to Hull. Road to hell. Hate it. So what I do instead is I go across the A66. After I join the A66 after Barnard Castle and then come off the other side at Kirkby Stephen. And I go through this beautiful, desolate moorlands or whatever the fuck they're called. But there used to be trees all over that. And now it's like this huge mounds of just grass with a couple of sheep on it. And you're like, put the fucking trees back. Go on, just put them back. Just put the fucking trees back. Put them back. Or build houses that float. There's an idea, Cuthbert. Zia doesn't understand that his policy hates him for being the wrong bit on the Dulux colour chart. Well, that's what I was getting at. Yeah. Have you seen what China have done with tree planting? Yeah, the Great Green Belt, is it called? Is it called the Green? The Great Green Swathe. They've got a special name for it in Chinese. But yeah, they've gone mad for tree planting because it's fucking sensible. It's like mangroves on the coastal areas, tropical countries. Put the fucking mangroves back. Put them back. They do so much stuff. We've got to get rid of them. They smell. Andy Murray wins Wimbledon. He's a British champion. He loses a Scottish contender. I think Andy Murray made a few jokes about that, wasn't he? When he won, he was British, and when he lost, he was Scottish. But he did win Wimbledon twice, which is remarkable. Graham, have you seen the parrots in Kirkby Stephen? No? What parrots? Where are the parrots? Tell me more about the... I was gonna wrap up the show then, Harry, but now I'm intrigued. You've got to tell me about the parrots at Kirkby Stephen. Please tell me. The only problem, the accusation of anti-Semitism was ludicrous. No, it wasn't. There was an independent report that found that Labour was institutionally anti-Semitic. It was an independent report. It wasn't Labour going, oh my God, I think this is it. They had a huge problem. I had 4 MPs in Liverpool, right? There were 4 MPs. Two of them, Louise Ellman and Luciana Berger, who, I don't see eye to eye with Luciana, especially about she was one of the lords who held up the bloody right to die fucking bill. But both Jewish, right? Luciana was heavily pregnant at the time in the Labour Party conference. I think it was in 2018. And it was just horrible, horrible time. It was just a really, really horrible time. And she left, citing anti-Semitism. And then Louise Ellman, who had been an elected representative for the Labour Party since the 1970s. For over 30 years, she'd been elected representative of the Labour Party, first as a councillor and then as an MP. She was the representative for Liverpool Riverside. And she left. She left the party citing anti-Semitism. A Jewish woman leaving, 2 of them. So we lost half of our MPs in Liverpool. Both of them, right, who left, cited anti-Semitism. Now, I'll just ask this question. If there were 2 black MPs who left Labour, or the Conservatives, or Refuck, or the Lib Dems, or whoever, citing racism, and then you, as a white person, said, no, there's no racism here, it's all made up. Come on. Come on. Don't do that. Don't, I'm sorry, but when it comes to people who say, I feel like people are being transphobic at me, I feel like people are being racist to me, I feel like, I believe them. But you know why? Because of every 100 people who tell you something awful that's happened to them, 1 is lying. 1 out of 100. And I don't think, the chances of having 2 female MPs, Jewish MPs in Liverpool, and both of them leaving Labour because they do not feel like they feel like Labour has become anti-Semitic, and to having an independent report going, yep, Labour is institutionally anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's real. Don't call it a hoax, please, because just just have a think. If it was 2 Muslim MPs, if it was 2 black MPs, if it was 2 MPs of South Asian heritage, and they said, no, we do not feel safe in this party anymore, that would be a fucking huge issue. And if it had been the Tories, we would have been all over it. We would have been like, oh, those fucking anti-Semitic bastards. But because it's Labour, and it was a leader that a lot of people in Labour liked, or a lot of people on the left of Labour liked, they were like, no, couldn't possibly, no, definitely, it's all a hoax, it's all a hoax. But then again, when it comes to things like racism, it is a trope. A trope, that's not the right word for it, is it? It's a safe place for someone on the right. Whenever you go, what about this racism? And they go, what? Name it. Name the exact thing that happened. And then you say, well, what about this? And they go, oh, well, actually, that was a misunderstanding. And they'll go through each one like a Gish Gallop of like things of, no, that wasn't quite right. And do you know what? If someone who is of an ethnic minority or religious minority says they feel unsafe, then I'll just believe them. I'll just believe them. And there's been a massive increase in both anti-Semitic attacks and Islamophobic attacks over the last few years, and we've got to stop it. It's our moral duty to nip it in the bud and say, no, fuck off. We're not going to stand for this. We're British. We don't do it this way. But yeah, so no, I got me back up a little bit about that, because obviously I shared the stage against Brexit with Louise and Luciana, and yeah, this is this moment just sort of etched into my head of just marching in Liverpool against Brexit. And I was there, we're holding the banner at the front saying "fuck off Brexit" or whatever. And Luciana was to my right, and we were doing chants saying, "No, we're not going to go," blah blah blah. And then I started trying to do a chant of "No, Jeremy Corbyn," because obviously he was quite fond of Brexit, as we found out subsequently. And the look that Luciana gave me was just like, she looked fucking terrified. She looked absolutely terrified because I had said something against the fucking magical fucking granddad and the shit that we'll get if anyone said anything bad about him. Like Anthony, the little boy from the Twilight Zone, where you've got to be nice to them. Trump's a bit like that, isn't it? You've got to be nice to him, or he'll send you to the cornfield. If you know what I'm talking about, great. If you don't, it's called The Good Life. It's got Bill Murray, who went on to be in Babylon 5, who was also in Lost in Space, and he's a little kid who could make things happen with his mind, turn you into a jack-in-the-box. Yeah, and Louise Almond was a political opportunist. Fuck off, Bowles-Cobb. No, I'm going to offend you. Fuck off. A political opportunist. She was a Labour MP for decades. A political opportunist. She was a Scouse Labour MP since the 80s. She was a councillor before then, since the 70s. A political what the fuck are you even on about? I'm sorry, fuck off. That's bollocks. I hate getting into this conversation. People are like, no, need to demonize these people. Louise is a lovely person. She's a genuinely lovely person who actually fucking exists, who gave up her political career because she didn't want to be in this party anymore, where it was making her feel horrible. And you know what? At the time, this is before the horrors of October the 7th and the nightmares that has happened since then. I was like, oh, it's just your fault. It's your fault. It's like people going up to people who are Muslim after September the 11th and going, it's your fault. What the fuck do I have to do with it? Well, you're one of them, aren't you? So you should sort it out. No, just don't do that. Just don't do that. Like, no, Louise, and she's fucking lovely. And I'm not going to say that if she's not. Do you know what I mean? I'm not being paid to just be nice about people that I know in real life who joined me and supported us when we came to Liverpool on the bollocks to Brexit bus. She was there to welcome us into Liverpool. And I don't know. It gets my back up because these are people that I know. And like I say, I don't see eye to eye with Luciana, especially about the right to die legislation that she helped fucking hold up in the House of Lords. But that is coming back next year, later in when Parliament comes back in September. That is coming back as a private member's bill. So and it should get support of government this time with Andy Burnham. But yeah, but yes, I once saw an albino peacock. Or albino? Is it albino or albino? Peacock in my mother's summer house. Thought I was hallucinating. Yeah. House of Lords needs to go into landfill. Andy, I completely agree, mate. I'm glad we can end on a note of agreement. I'm going to read any of the rest of the messages because I don't want to get bogged down in this shit. But yeah, the House of Lords is not fit for purpose. We should have a House of Britain that represents the 4 nations of the United Kingdom fairly, and make sure that there can't be any laws that get passed that affect the whole of Britain unless 3 of the 4 nations agree. That's it. That's the rule. Yeah. I can only comment on what did you see? What did you see that I missed? No, I just. Yeah, she was part of the Friends of Israel probably because she's Jewish. You know, I'm pretty sure there's some Pakistani people of Pakistani heritage who go to Pakistani events and things. There's not. Yeah, I do find it very difficult when we have this conversation. If I'm talking to someone who's Jewish, then maybe they can have a view on this of Labour weren't really anti-Semitic, but I mean, I should have. When I met Zach Polanski. We did a episode of 3 Blokes in the Pub with him back in 2019, I think, early 2019, and I should have asked him about that in the Labour Party because he's Jewish. But obviously, he's very much anti what Israel is doing, and I'm hoping that Andy Burnham is a bit more vocal about that and actually changes things and puts things in place so that they don't have to continually be seen as supporting a regime that is doing exactly the same thing that fucking Russia's doing to the Ukrainians. And one time we're going, we should help the Ukrainians, which absolutely we should. But at the same time we're going, but we shouldn't help the Palestinians because, fuck them. Yeah, not great. Not a good look. Not a good look. I'd like a house made up of industry and union leaders who can speak for their respective industries from a business and worker perspective, 50-50 evenly. A house of pause. I don't know if anyone's going to sign up to be in a House of Pause. I mean, a House of Commons, that's basically what it means, isn't it? Because you got the Lords and the Commoners with, yeah. She had justified differences with Corbyn, who was useless on this issue, and he was worse than useless. He facilitated it. He allowed it to happen. He allowed it to fester and grow. If you have mold growing in your house, you fucking get rid of the fucking mold. You get the disinfectant on. You make sure there's air circulation. You fucking scrub it off the fucking wall so it doesn't allow it to fester and grow. He did nothing. One of my biggest objections to that motherfucker is he did nothing. He was so shit. It's painful. He will go down in history as the shittest Labour leader of all time. Of all time, hands down. There's like this massive gap between him and then the next person who was the next shittest leader of Labour. He was unbelievably shit. I mean, Michael Foot, there you go. Between him and Michael Foot, it's like 2 fucking miles. And Michael Foot, he only lost one election. They got rid of him because he lost it so badly. They let this fucking clown lose 2 elections, 1 referendum, 1 European election. They let him lose the fucking ton of bloody councillors. Didn't let Keir Starmer lose a load of councillors, though, did they? That's politics for you. Red and tooth and claw. Anyway, listen, I've been babbling on now for over 2 hours and 17 minutes, so I really need to get going. Thank you so much for joining me. I might do a show at 6 o'clock tonight. I don't know. We will see. But I will do my best to entertain you before we end up in the situation tonight at 8 o'clock. When a good number of people in the nation, in the English bit of the nation, I'm sure, will be watching the World Cup. Well, actually, people all over the nation. I mean, maybe people in Scotland will be watching it, hoping that England will lose. But I do hope that England win. I wish the lads the best of luck against VAR Argentina. But yeah, I do understand. That there is a lot of feeling about this subject. The whole point of today's show was like, this is going to be the last time we get to see Keir Starmer being the leader of Labour, and the Prime Minister in Prime Minister's questions. So yeah. There we have it. Okay, my friends, I'm going to sign off now, and I would just like to say thank you so much for watching. I just need to do something here. 1 second, I will do something here. Right, there we go. Right, okay. You will understand when we end the show. So thanks very much for watching. Damn it. Right, there we go. Thanks for your comments, and yeah, it's okay. We can agree to disagree. Water under the bridge. It was years ago now. Too long ago, shouldn't care anymore, as Jarvis Cocker once sang. And yeah, so 6 o'clock tonight. Tell you what, give us a like before you go. Even if you didn't like it, give us a dislike then. Fair enough. But give us a subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon. So if we do go live at 6 o'clock today, I need to talk to my friends, see if anyone wants to come on. But otherwise, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, nice and early for the next morning brew. Hopefully I'll see you then. Gallifreyan then, if you're watching, I don't know if you are, I might do a little bit of writing this afternoon. I will see how I feel. Or if you want to watch Graham Hughes Rights and Wrongs, I will crack on with my book sequel to Man of the World. And until then, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.